Hi guys, so what is one thing that I could tell you that would make your life easier? Well, quit buying hay for your nest boxes would be one. Now I'm not talking about feeding this, but you could, because this is what hay is, guys. But, you know when you come back and you mow and it leaves the strip of cut grass? Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all see it right there. Have y'all ever thought about coming back, before it rains of course, after it's dry, and raking that up? Because guys, let me show you how much I have raked up today. Okay, now this is done with the bush hog out here, but do y'all see that? And I still got a lot more to go. Y'all see all that? Yeah, this is just where I have raked up the clippings from the bush hog. Let me show you something else. So this section over here was mowed, right? There's some I haven't raked up yet. But look there. I've been raking that up too. This will be nice in my nest boxes and as feed for rabbits. I just mowed this today, so it is still green. I can keep flipping it until it's dry. Or I can leave it out until it's dry if there's no rain in the forecast. And save it for hay. Now, when you do this, you need to watch for mold, of course, because you don't want to store it with a lot of moisture in it. But I'm fixing to put this in nest boxes right now. We're fixing to go take the other stuff and put it in dog houses. So, yeah, just a tip for today. Free hay. Mow your grass, save the clippings. Yep, free hay. Hey guys, y'all come with us on our journey today as we do some canning. We have a lot of recipes that we will be sharing with you in the next couple of videos. We're going to be making goldenrod wine, watermelon wine. We are going to do cheesecake in a jar. We're going to do cornbread in a jar, and also burritos in a jar. Today we're going to start the burritos in a jar. So y'all come with us.
Let's go.
First, we are doing burritos in a jar. Alright, so here is your ingredients. So if you want, pause the video and write all this down. On the left side, it tells you how much of your ingredients for a quart, and on the right side, it tells you how much for a pint. You're going to put these things in the jar in the order listed. And then you're going to fill the jar with beef broth to leave an inch of head space. All right, so you're going to pressure can it for 90 minutes for a quart, 75 minutes for a pint. And then when you're done, you can place it on the tortillas and serve it with cheese and taco sauce, whatever you want to do to make it an actual burrito. Basically, we're making the burrito filling, okay? Now, as you can see from that title right there where it tells where this recipe came from, this is a Rebel canning recipe again. So keep in mind that some of this is not approved by the USDA. Same for cornbread in a jar and other recipes that you might see me do. These have not been tested or approved, or it uses something that they don't like. For one, I don't think they like canning with meats or rice. Mostly I think it's the rice, but we are going to go ahead and give this a shot. I do not know how this tastes, so y'all will find out as well with me. So I hope this doesn't taste bad, because I'm going to be doing mine with deer. First step, brown that ground beef. Now, how many jars do you need? I don't know. It depends on how many jars you want to do. So what I'm going to do is brown my ground beef and see how many jars it fills up. It's just me and my husband, so we will be doing pints. All right, first ingredient for pints is 1/4 of a cup of dry pinto beans. All right, so we've got this big bag of pintos, and we will be going ahead and putting those in the pressure canner today as well. So I will be canning all day. 1/4 of a cup per jar of dry pinto beans. And guys, this is where the funnel comes in handy. I need to go ahead and pull mine out. See how much easier that was with the funnel? Every jar has 1/4 of a cup. Now, if I was doing pints, it would be 1/2 cup. Now, the next step is rice. Now, the recipe calls for brown rice, but I have a bag of white rice already open. So we'll be using that. And it says to use 1/8 of a cup for a quart and a tablespoon for a pint. We're doing pints, so we're doing a tablespoon. So here we go, 1 jar, 1 tablespoon per jar. I have seen recipes with both white and brown, so if you prefer brown, use brown. And guys, I know I'm making a mess all over this kitchen counter, as always. All right, there we go. Next ingredient is going to be chopped onion, 1/4 of a cup per jar. I haven't chopped any onions, so I better get to chopping. But that's why I gave you the recipe up front, guys. That way you could go ahead and get everything ready to do, to where you can just fill jars and be done. And actually, you know what? I have onion in the freezer, so let me pull that out. for a 1/4 cup of onion per jar. So we have this onion that we put in the freezer a while back. And this is green onion. You can use white onion if you want, or red onion. I just happen to have this, and we are going to use it up. Guys, y'all know what I just did? I've been putting too much in here. I've been putting a 1/2 cup. It's only a 1/4. Thought that looked like a little too much. So a 1/2 of a cup, a half of a cup is what? 1/4. So I'm just pulling a 1/4 of a cup out of a jar and moving it to another jar. And then I'm going to do the last one correctly. Alright, there's a 1/4 of a cup per jar. Next is chopped bell pepper, 1/4 of a cup per pint, and a 1/3 of a cup per quart. Unless you like more. I mean, alright, the recipe calls for a 1/4 of a cup of bell pepper chopped up per pint and a 1/3 of a cup per quart. Alright, we've already cut it up. Now guys, we use bell pepper and banana pepper interchangeably. So whatever sweet pepper you got will work, okay? Now the next step is to add the ground meat. Now we are using ground deer in our jars. Now I have more ground deer than what I cooked, so I'll keep cooking until I fill up my jars. I am not exactly sure how much meat will fill how many jars. We're just going to fill until we can't fill no more. Per pint is 3/4 of a cup, and per quart is 1.5 cups of meat. So it wants it already browned and already drained and ready to go. So that's what we have here. Now, I have a 1/2 cup scoop and a 1/4 cup scoop, so I'm just going to fill the scoops and put them in jars. So there's a 1/2 per jar. And as you can see, we're getting pretty full already. So I may just leave it as a 1/2 cup of meat per jar, because 3/4 seems like a lot of meat. But don't forget, this will cook down. So, guys, I just put that in the wrong jar. Guys, my hands are clean. They have been doing dishes all morning. They have been washing goldenrod all morning. They are beyond clean, so I am touching food with my fingers. That's a half a cup. Let's see if we can go back and put a quarter cup in some of these, and that'll make it 3/4 per jar. The next ingredient is going to be Rotel tomatoes. Now, I don't have Rotel, but Rotel is simply jalapenos mixed with tomatoes. That's all it is. And guys, my 2 pounds of meat almost did 8 pint jars. Now this is deer, so not exactly sure, you know, if beef would do the same amount or not. Alright, so tomatoes is next. And I don't have, like I said, Rotel. So what I'm going to do is chop up a jalapeno. When you chop jalapenos, make sure you're wearing gloves. Yeah. Guys, I don't have any little blue gloves in my kitchen. So here we are. So we're going to chop up this one jalapeno. I may chop 2 and divide it amongst the jars. But we don't want ours very hot to start with. So yeah. Make sure if you are sensitive that you wash those hands immediately. Because that oil, when it gets on your fingers and anything you touch will burn, guys. So I'm warning you, make sure you put on gloves and wash those hands. Wash, wash, wash. Do not touch your eyes. Yeah, this one will be enough for the number of jars I have. Because again, I don't want really spicy. Okay, that's all the jalapeno I'm going to do. So let me just divide that amongst our jars. Alright, that's it. There's not much jalapeno per jar. That's okay. Let's add the tomato. Now we're going to be using tomatoes we canned earlier in the season. As you can see, we're going to use this jar of tomatoes and fill these up with, it says 2 tablespoons per jar of tomatoes. Well, it actually says of Rotel. So we're still going to put 2 tablespoons of tomatoes in there though. All right, there is 2 tablespoons for every jar. Only thing left will be taco seasoning and salt and broth. I'm actually going to go back and add some extra tomato because I like tomato. Don't add a lot though, guys, because your beans will still have to swell. There we go. I'll put what's left in the fridge, and that'll be good. All right, taco seasoning is up next. It is half a tablespoon per jar for pints and 1 tablespoon per jar for quarts. All right, so what are we using for taco seasoning? Well, our local Ollie's has this, taco seasoning. You can also use this. Here's another brand. But you don't want to do that. You want to make your own. There's the recipe. Let me show you. Taco seasoning mix. Okay? Pause the video, write all that down. Or look up a recipe online. Okay? Alright, so we're going to put 1/2 of a tablespoon per jar. We're going to go ahead and use this. Okay, every jar has taco seasoning. Now we're going to add some salt to each one. This is optional, and canning salt, kosher salt, anything like that doesn't add the cloudiness to your brine. We're not making a brine, so I'm just going to use regular salt. Now, the recipe calls for 1/4 teaspoon per jar for a pint, and 1/2 teaspoon per jar for a quart. Use as little or as much as you want based off of that. Well, this is not going to go as well as I hoped. So here we go. How many y'all know does the pinching method? So there we go. We now have about 1/2 teaspoon per jar. Okay? Now we're going to fill these up with beef broth, and then we're going to wipe the lids and rims, and we are going to put them in the pressure canner. Make sure you're leaving 1 inch of headspace. All right, now we need to wipe these rims with some vinegar to make sure that our lids seal. Then we add our lids. And our rings. Finger tighten. And then we'll set them down in the pressure canner. All right, all these are ready to go in a pressure canner. All right, we are setting up the pressure canner. Don't forget the rack on the bottom. Don't forget the amount of water that's suggested for your pressure canner. And now we set the jars in, guys. But aren't they pretty? Alright, we got all 8 jars down in there. We're going to put our lid on and get started. Alright, once it starts venting out the top, then we'll put this on. Then this will start building pressure, and then once it reaches the 11 pounds of pressure, we start the timer. All right, y'all, remember that I had this whole big old bag of beans, but we're going to can them. So to can them, you put a pint jar, half of a cup, and a quart jar, a cup. One cup full of beans per per quart jar. Just a cup of beans. Then you add salt, you add boiling water, and then you pressure can them. And that's all there is to it. Stay tuned for further directions. It's a half a cup of beans plus a half a teaspoon of salt for a pint. It's a cup of beans and a teaspoon of salt per quart. So here we go, putting in the salt. Now we will fill all of these jars to 1 inch of headspace with hot water, and then they will go in the pressure canner as well. We will pressure can 75 minutes for pints, 90 minutes for quarts. All right, this started venting, we put that on. This popped up, pressure started building. It is at 12 pounds of pressure. We have set our timer for 75 minutes for this burrito in a jar to cook. These are in pints, so 75 minutes is all we need. If you did quarts, 90 minutes. When you filled the jars up to 1 inch of headspace, go ahead and wipe your rims and set your lids and rings.
Hello?
Recording?
Huh? Okay.
Let's go.
Thank you.
All right, now these all are full of water, leaving at least an inch of head space. Some of them are a little bit on the low side, but it's going to be okay. They should be up to this neck right here, but that's going to be okay. So they are ready to go in the pressure canner as soon as it gets emptied. Guys, this is where having multiple pressure canners comes in handy, because you can do several batches at one time. As you can see, I have a little stove. Now I could probably put a pressure canner back there, but I'm not going to, because my stove is so little. I'm not comfortable with two big old canners sitting on it. So we will let you know how these look when they come out of the canner, guys. Don't forget, 11 pounds of pressure for 90 minutes for quarts, 75 minutes for pints. We have a casualty in the pot. There is a broke jar. The rest of the jars are fine, but the one that is broke, I will have to throw all that away because it could have glass shards in it. So just be careful when you're lifting jars out. Go ahead and know that you could possibly have one break. This is why we use jar lifters, not to mention it's hot, but it's why we check our jars for nicks and things like that before we put stuff in them, because if it's got an imperfection or a nick or something like that, then more than likely it will break in your pressure canner. So that one right there has bit the dust. That is my first broken jar. Yep, first one. I've never had one before. Got one now. Alright, we're going to go ahead and finish removing all these. Y'all keep watching. Let's see, what's the best way to get that out? Alright, so I wanted to show you, using this broken jar, what this looks like. So this is burrito in a jar, guys. Now me personally, I would have probably liked a lot more tomatoes and fewer beans. But you take this and you put it on your tortilla shell, from a jar that did not break, that is. And yeah, add your cheese and your sour cream and you've got an instant meal just about. Add some salsa, whatever you want to make it a burrito. And there you go, guys. Burrito in a jar. And we have 7 pints. Hopefully all 7 of them seal. And if they don't, then that will be dinner for one of us. Most of them are already sealed. That one right there and that one right there we'll have to watch. But they should seal. Guys, all my lids were reused. And most all of them have sealed. So just want you to be aware that, yeah, we reuse lids here. Again, that's a Rebel canner thing, though. It's not USDA recommended. Okay? Alright, guys, stay tuned for the rest of the pintos coming out later. Alright, guys, so we just took the last of all the beans out of the pressure canners. Now, the first jars here, they're almost cool. This is the burrito in a jar mix. So when this is ready to be served, you just spread that on your tortilla shells, add your sour cream, add your cheese, whatever else you want to add, wrap it up like a burrito, and enjoy. Now, this is one of those recipes. I have not tasted this yet, so we will have to tweak it as we go. And you'll have to do the same thing. When you make it the first time, don't make a big batch. Find out if you like it first, and then tweak it, okay? And then you can make bigger batches as you go. Now, you know, we bought that big bag of beans, so we had to do something with all the beans. since we had opened the bag. So we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 jars, quart jars of pinto beans, and there was still some left over. And we went ahead and did some kidney beans also, because we use a lot of kidney beans in chilies and things like that. So all of this will be cooling. The ones we took out a while ago, they have all sealed. So these here, I just took out of the pressure canner. They will seal as they cool. Everything has sealed so far. So guys, if you like what we're doing, make sure you tell us, make sure you give us comments, make sure you give us a like, make sure you share our videos. That's what helps us the most, get new eyes on our videos. Subscribe, hit that notification bell to where you get new notifications. Be sure and stay tuned for Fireside Chats on Fridays, and we put out the new homestead videos on Tuesdays. Guys, we will see you around. Bye guys.